So over the past couple of days, I've been digging into CSS Custom Properties, which are these CSS properties here that you can see start with a double dash. And I've never looked at these before, and in a bunch of the articles that I've been reading, it seems that there's, I don't know if I'd call it confusion, but there's a lot of explanation around how CSS Custom Properties are inherited and is scoped within a document object model. So this is something I wanted to look at for myself. So to experiment, what I did was create a series of 3 nested containers, and within each of these containers, which all have the same class, there are these action links, and the action links allow me to inject or remove CSS custom property definitions at the given layer of the DOM tree. So I can remove them, I can add a light theme or a dark theme, and again I can do the same actions at all 3 layers. Now, if we look at the root of the document here, you can see I have some sort of, let's call them constants for the light theme and the dark theme colors, and this is just so I don't have to repeat these values later on in the document. And you can see that the root also defaults to using the light theme for these background color and color CSS custom properties. Now the containers just use whatever the background color or color is available at the current layer of the DOM. And that's essentially the point of this experiment, which is to see what these 2 values contain depending on where we define overrides within the DOM tree. So if we look, we're adding a click handler here at the root of the document. So we're going to do some event delegation. And inside of our event handler, we essentially look to make sure that we're dealing with a toggle link. If we are, we look to see which toggle link we clicked on based on the class list. So if it contains light, you'll see that we define at the local container, sorry, let me remove the wrap there. We define at the local container a background color and color CSS custom property. If it's the dark toggle, we use the dark constant. And if it's neither the light nor the dark, we're going to remove the locally defined CSS custom property. So let's take a look at what this is doing in the browser. Refresh. So right now everything has the light theme because it's inheriting from root. But now if I click and use the dark theme here, and let's take a quick look at the element, what we can see, sorry, this is a little bit, what we can see is that on this container, you can see that there's local style definitions now for the dash dash background color and dash dash color CSS custom properties. And what you can also see is that those overridden values on the outermost container are being inherited by the middle container and the innermost container. And in fact, if I override now the light value on the middle container, you can see that it's applied to both the middle and the innermost because the innermost is now inheriting from the middle. And of course I could do dark here and it overrides the value that was overridden here, which is overriding the value that was overridden here. And I can remove it from here, and you can see now it inherits the dark. And I can do light, and you can see, of course, because we still have the dark applied to the inner, but I can remove that. And I also have this little control container at the bottom, which is just there to demonstrate that there's nothing weird or unexpected happening. This value stays the same because we're not modifying this part of the local DOM tree branch. We're only modifying this part of the DOM tree branch, which keeps the scope of the CSS custom properties there contained. Now what we can see here essentially is that CSS custom properties work exactly like other CSS properties, which is probably why they're documented as custom properties and not as variables, which is how they're sort of referred to in colloquial terms. I guess that's really all there is to it. This is the first time I've looked at CSS custom properties. They seem pretty cool. They seem to be coming up over and over in terms of theming, runtime theming, as opposed to compile time theming. And it's definitely something I'll be looking more closely at.